Let's dive right into it. Played out on our show yesterday morning, President Trump's renewed push for a travel ban following the terror attack in London. On Saturday night, he tweeted, "We need the travel ban as an extra level of safety." Then yesterday morning, the president fired off a series of tweets, evidently responding to a segment on MSNBC's Morning Joe, as the Wall Street Journal editorial board points out this morning. In the tweets, Trump called the revised travel ban a watered-down version of the original and criticized his own Department of Justice. Then last night, he tweeted once again saying, "That's right, we need a travel ban for certain dangerous countries, not some politically correct term that won't help us protect our people." Legal experts say Trump's tweets could complicate the administration's effort to defend that travel ban in court. Even George Conway, a prominent conservative lawyer and the husband of White House advisor Kellyanne Conway, is suggesting the president's comments could significantly hurt his case. He writes, quote, "These tweets may make some people feel better, but they certainly won't help the office of the Solicitor General get 5 votes in the Supreme Court, which is what actually matters. Sad." Again, that's Kellyanne Conway's husband, George. He went on to clarify, saying, "Just to be clear, in response to inquiries, I still very, very strongly support POTUS, his administration, policies, and the executive order, and of course, my wonderful wife," which is why I said what I said this morning. Every sensible lawyer in the White House counsel's office and every political appointee at DOJ would agree with me, as some have already told me. The point cannot be stressed enough that tweets on legal matters seriously undermine the administration's agenda, and POTUS and those who support him as I do need to reinforce that point and not be shy about it. So, Joe, there's the interesting layer of George Conway being Kellyanne Conway's husband, but more importantly to the point, these appellate courts on the travel ban have time and again used Donald Trump's own words during the campaign as president to strike down the travel ban. So the Supreme Court could be watching these tweets as well.
Well, they have to be watching the tweets. He's clearly shown what his intention is. The President of the United States, in real time, told millions of his followers that it was a travel ban. And so George Conway's exactly right. He is doing, on the outside, what people on the inside should be doing. They have to all go to Donald Trump. We've been saying this for some time, and they're not going to do it. But the people around him need to go to him and demand that he stop this, or there's going to be mass resignation. And that includes members of his family. This is destructive. He's been destructive. Mark Halpern yesterday, we saw it play out in real time, where I talked to the camera, just having a little fun, talking about the president, watching the show. He tweets a couple of minutes later. And then we respond to that, and he tweets a little bit later. And as the Wall Street Journal said, you know, he was responding to segments on Morning Joe about his executive order. And the Wall Street Journal rightly, and all of us rightly, are stunned by this sort of behavior. And as they conclude, if the president continues this, the only people that will be working with him in the White House are family members and people who work for Breitbart.
No, one way to tell the story of this presidency is never going to be conventional. We knew that. But one way to tell the story is when he does unconventional things that help him versus unconventional things that hurt him. And this series of tweets, the ones over the weekend and the ones in response to the program yesterday, in the view of everyone I talked to, and George Conway most prominently in a very public way, this hurts him. It hurts him with his agenda. It hurts him with Republicans on Capitol Hill. And as you suggested, it hurts him with some of the people closest to him in the White House who throw up their hands in frustration to say, this is not how we wanted the week to go.
And he's sitting at 36, 37% in the latest polling. It's not helping him. In fact, his erratic behavior over the past several weeks, Donnie Deutsch, has only served to hurt him. And, you know, you have all these people, whenever you talk about Donald Trump not being well, you know, quote marks, and there's a Gallup poll, they all go, oh, he's always been like this. Oh, you know, why are you so surprised? You all, people, not talking about us, but just everybody, should have known this is exactly how he would have acted. Donnie, no, here is the difference. When he said things that offended us during the primary, as sad as it seems about the state of a lot of Republican primary voters, he was doing things that played to his political interest, that would help him in a lot of early primary states. So it was evil. it was cynical, but it was still in his self-interest. How you can tell that somebody is not well and that there's a serious issue is when they continually do things against self-interest. And don't take it from me. Take it from people that work inside the White House who will tell you every day they're pulling their hair out because this guy's his worst enemy. And by the way, the Wall Street Journal, who's been one of his best defenders, concludes their editorial this way, Donnie. They say, mark it down as further evidence that the most effective opponent of the Trump presidency is Donald J. Trump.
That's interesting because he actually stole my lead. You've talked a lot on the show and very passionately when everybody was kind of losing their minds, the fact that Trump got elected and the Republicans are going to go down. And you said, you know what, we have this amazing system in this country of checks and balances, and it works. And you know what the ultimate check and balance on Donald Trump is? Donald Trump. That every time he starts to move in a way that we feel, oh, this is really going to hurt us, this is very, very destructive, he sabotages himself. So he is the ultimate check and balance. As far as why he does things that seem to be self-destructive and seem to go against him, I think he clearly has a personality disorder. And when you have a personality disorder, you need to create drama to feel alive. I'm not a clinician, but that is kind of the analytical behavior of what he does. And I've also said this before. Every president in my lifetime, I genuinely believed was sitting in that office thinking about what is best for the 300 million people. Whether they were right or wrong in my eyes, I genuinely believe that. This man is driven by what is best for him in that moment. And
But Donnie, he doesn't know what's best for him at this point because what he's doing is hurting his interests, hurting his political interests, hurting his political standing, hurting his White House,
that's the
hurting his
personality
administration.
Disorder.
I know, that's what I'm saying. Hurting his country, and in many cases, hurting the world, and he doesn't know any better. There is not a sane, rational human being that would have tweeted what he tweeted yesterday, knowing that the Supreme Court was sitting there and watching and reading and listening and knowing what everybody else in the White House knew the second he started those tweets, that it was against his own interest. Also against his own interest when you attack the mayor of a city that is undergoing terrorist attacks. Listen, even the most evil, cynical person would restrain themselves during that time because they knew it would cut against their best interest. This man sitting in the White House does not think rationally that way anymore, and you've known him for a long time. It's getting worse by the day, is it not?
It is, frankly, as any mental disorder does as people get older. And once again, whether it's a personality disorder, borderline personality, to your point, Joe, this behavior is aberrant. And you can't look at it, to your point, there's not even an evil motivation here other than a self-destructive personality disorder.